Live. Hello and welcome, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard, to today's live stream and to today's Let's Tune, one of the first of the new series that I'm going to be releasing where I bring in other experts in the CPDH space to talk about ways to improve decks that we've worked on here on the stream before, or find new approaches to those builds, or to just generally spruce up what we're doing. So I'm really stoked to have my buddy Fyndhorn Brownie on here, who I've had a great correspondence with lately, and has a really interesting perspective. So really stoked to have you on the show here, and yeah, tell us how you're doing today, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking about Avalanche Caller. I do need to, though, really quickly mention, I think it's funny that my first appearance here in PDH content is talking about a mono blue combo deck.
It is, yeah. And for those of you that don't know, or if you haven't been in the server active, you may not know that Fyndhorn is, or we'll call you Brownie. I feel like that's a little easier to say here. Yeah, because like Brownie's like a creature, right? Is that Brownie is really clued into mono white in particular, and has done an enormous amount of trailblazing in developing and expanding a color that for a long time was just purely considered not viable. And I think what we've discovered watching your decks play is that they're perfectly reasonable. And I think I also went through that process of trying to understand exactly how they would interact, and it took a lot of looking into it to try and really grok exactly what was happening. And it kind of started with Great Desert Prospector when I built that with Derek, and from there I've just been really closely watching your work. So really glad to have you here. You're definitely one of the people that I've been looking to have on the stream. So just want to give a quick shout out. We got Alex Scott in the chat. What's up, dude? Glad to have you here. And of course, before we get started here, I do want to give a really quick shout out to all the patrons, the financial supporters of the channel, who are making this happen every single time we go live. The fact that we're going to 2 times a week. We're now on Mondays and Fridays. Sometimes we're going to get a gameplay video on the weekends as well. Is in part because these folks have validated our project, and that Clay and I are engaging in. And so yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out and make sure you all feel really thanked for the contributions you make. So we got Zach, Scooby, Chris, Tristan, William, Paul, Corey, Derek, Devin, Ian, Bobby, Jin Shooting Star, and our longest running patron Noyark. And if you too are interested in joining our Patreon, getting access to these interfaces that we use through the channel, or getting access to the supporters only section of the Discord, this is a great way to do it. We have anything from $2 a month for basically getting access to the exclusive Discord server, all the way up to 10. And then of course, for the folks of you out there that might be that might feel even more committed to what we're doing here and have a little more disposable income, feel like you want to give big thanks, we've got sections up above as well that promise a lot of rewards for you there as well. We do want to make it worth it to you. That one includes coaching, private coaching, things of that nature. So but yeah, just want to thank you all for being here, and let me know if the audio is coming through loud and clear in the chat here. Want to make sure we get Finn back on. And we got Alex saying, hey, how's it going? Gator said, I didn't know Fyndhorn was so sexy. Yeah, great looking dude, eh? We got Alex saying, I know we're already kind of running late, so just whenever you get the chance, could you take a look at the list I sent you the other day? Absolutely, Alex. So what we'll do is let's pin that for once we've gotten a quick start on the video. And if you could just remind me as we're going through, so Alex, last time we were streaming, submitted a list, did a super chat, and we're going to take a look as a chat, and Fyndhorn, you and I can look at it too, to talk about the list and see if there's things we might tweak and improve. So thank you for your contribution, Alex, and we'll get on that once we've made a little progress here. So now let's get onto the list here. What we have is Avalanche Caller. This is what we're here for today. Avalanche Caller is, if we go back through the story a little bit, I played a game with Heartless from Philadelphia, who played in a very different build of Avalanche Caller. And I think it was somewhere in the game where I realized that the creature lands were hexproof. And I just really hadn't processed that. And what immediately became clear to me is I wanted to build a deck that had enormous amounts of mana. And it was about the same time that that Neuark, our patron Neuark, also mod in the server, was doing a lot of really cool stuff with Big Blue, which is basically tons of mana, big mana rocks, all the way up to Sisay's Ring, Urgolem's Eye, these 4 mana tap for 2 colorless stuff, playing huge draw spells like 6 mana, 5 mana stuff, playing Rush of Knowledge. And then the way that you make slots for that is you're actually cutting back on counter spells. And basically the idea is to present your combo without being really invested in it working, because you always have the mana to draw more cards, to pick your spells up out of the graveyard, to bounce things, to interact with things in ways that basically keep you alive. It's highly resilient combo decks. And when I saw that that commander that Heartless was playing, I thought I'm absolutely going to do a let's build on this. So it was almost the next day we did a let's build. I had Neuark on to help me do it, and what we came up with is this, or something like it. Now, we've had some adaptations and some updates to it, but you're gonna see like the core of like classic mono blue or big blue, as Neuark called it. So we're talking like anywhere from like 15 to 20 mana rocks. Many of them like value producing in some way. We're going to have a huge number of draw spells, and the draw spells are not small. We're talking like there's no cantrips in here. So there's no Ponder, no Preordain, no Brainstorm. You can play those alongside them, because what they can do is they can facilitate you quickly finding other draw spells, but a lot of times they just feel like dead air. So it's cutting the cantrips, reducing the number of counter spells. The counter spells then become modal. So you have stuff like Foil, Soul Read, or Foil isn't modal, but we're going to have lots of lands. You find a Villain's Lair, Dream Fracture, Arcane Denial, and Soul Read, all things that just draw cards. And huge mana, a nice pool of removal here, and then we've got a Peregrine Drake combo with Ghostly Flicker and the Archaeomancers. Dramatic Reversal plays in here really well, as well as just a massive ritual with these ramp spells, something you can get back with your Archaeomancers to facilitate big combo turns. So what happened that led us to this point is that, Fyndhorn, you began working on your own version. So tell us a little bit about what got you started there, and how you ended up landing on your build of Avalanche Caller.
Yeah. So there's a lot to this story, but I'm going to tell it pretty quickly. So I first got interested in Avalanche Caller. So for those who don't know, I came back to playing Magic after about a 20-year absence, about 18 months ago. And the very first set I ever played was Ice Age. So as soon as I came back and I was looking at different sets, somebody was like, "Oh, we have a snow set right now." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Let's check it out." And so it was Kaldheim, and I bought the whole box of it. I didn't even realize at that point when I first started you could buy singles. And so I bought a box of it, and I got like several copies of this Avalanche Caller thing. And you got to appreciate the last cards I saw were probably like during Dark Steel, I think like Kamigawa Block, the original one. So I look at this thing and I'm like, I paid 2 and I make a 4/4 hexproof haste. This is amazing. This is an amazing card. I had to learn a lot that like this is not the most busted card in Magic, right? It was a big learning curve. Magic has changed a lot in the last 20 years. But nonetheless, I was like, this is a very powerful ability. And when friends were telling me to get into Commander, I put this into a list for Yorn, God of Winter, because it just gives all the lands pseudo vigilance, and it's just a fantastic addition to that list. It's a Sultai ramp and control list, very fun to play. So I played it in that, and then I took that deck apart because then I got very into Pauper. And so I put this aside. I was like, this is cool, and maybe I can figure out something with it eventually, but I just can't yet. I have to kind of evaluate the meta and like kind of how this whole format works. And then I was putting together a pod for some friends and family, and I decided to put together Avalanche Caller, and I was starting it just as a completely casual deck. I was like, this is gonna be a snowball fight deck. That's all we're doing. We're just gonna ramp hard. And then as I was looking at lists, there's actually, and I'm gonna feel bad here if this is somebody who's typically in our chat and I don't see it in Discord. There's someone by the name of Sprout, who's also a brewer on Moxfield. And as I was looking through lists, Sprout had a list that was basically Avalanche Caller, but dedicated to the free from the real combo. And I was like, oh, that's a really neat like combo line. So I just grabbed a couple of the combo pieces. I was like, I'm not even going to tutor for this. I'm just throwing it in there, right? Yep. And then I was like, okay, but like, what's my payoff? Because then we can talk about this. Capsize becomes like not as great here. Like it can still work, but it's not as great in the context of this list. And so I was looking like, what's my payoff? I need something to dump infinite mana into. And that's kind of where Secret Door came in. And I was like, oh, that's a real, like, not only is that a really like efficient, highly tutorable, really great way to get that payoff, it's also like fantastic to drop in the early game as just a massive
One
blocker.
mana 0/4. Yeah. I mean, like cards like this regularly eat like the virtual like 15 damage kind of stuff. It's like people just don't want to waste their combat on you if they can't punch through it, right?
That's exactly right. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to start putting this together. And as I did, it was around that time that I think you had that game with Heartless, and then you did your Let's Build, and I was watching yours. And so then I sort of, well, two things actually happened around the same time. Jonathan from our servers, who's a very big on Turbo Combo, I put a list into the Common Connoisseurs, which, by the way, if you're not, Ryan is not paying me to say this, but if you are not a member of the Common Connoisseurs, join, because there are people in there who will just give you free advice on how to build your decks. I put something in there, and I was like, hey guys, what are some combo lines in here? And Jonathan is a very dedicated combo player.
Yeah, well known for Deskit, which is the Dargo Keskit, and Dargo Keskit, as well as I believe they've shifted over to Dargo Malcolm now, is something that that he and Morgana have been looking at. But yeah, that's one of the spaces that they've been really interested. I believe they play Abdel as well a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jonathan was like, throw every combo into it. Why wouldn't you? And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? So I was like, okay, I'm going to throw in every combo. And then you were doing your Let's Build and suggesting like this big blue strategy. And I was like, okay, I want a ton of ramp, and I want a ton of combo. And then I started playing it, and so this is maybe more of a play style thing in terms of how I play the game. I just found I was just not doing much. Like I was ramping, and I would play A Caller, and A Caller would get killed. And then I'd play A Caller again, and then A Caller would get killed. And so like I just felt like most of my game actions were land go, or like play A Caller gets killed, cast A Caller now for 8 or whatever, I was like, okay, so something's not working here. And what I realized is that a couple of things. One, I had so much dedicated space to the combos. And while like on the one hand, it's like you could just whoopsie into a bunch of these. Like I wasn't putting a ton of tutors into it. You could whoopsie into a bunch of these. I was finding like I wasn't really playing much interaction. So I wasn't really doing much to stop my opponent's game plan. And so by the time mine was online, once I had grabbed a couple combo pieces, I was toast.
Yep.
So that was one problem. So I said, okay, I think I need to go back and take a look at this again. And then I had a game probably about a month ago where I picked this up after a long absence. I tried it, and it nearly won the game just on the aggro game plan. It was a game that was very grindy, and like I was about to take out the table, and then a moment's peace hit. Just like everybody knows that feeling.
It's awful, especially in a deck like this where it's like in another aggro deck you might just be turning sideways and you're wasting your combat step, but in a deck like this, a person casting a moment's peace is kind of like a time walk because you animated your lands. So yeah, that can definitely hurt.
So I was like, okay, so now I got to tune this a little bit more. And so as I was doing that, and Ryan, you saw this in the chat, as I was doing that, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to dedicate this one combo. I want enough spots in here where I can do one combo, and it's going to be super efficient. Like everything that's dedicated to the combo is going to be just like super easy to get to and tutorable multiple ways, right? Yep. But we're just doing freed combo, and we're going to open up more space for interaction. It was from there that I had some discussions with Gatorbait, who is a mod in our server, also the one of the hosts of the Common Theory podcast. Mm-hmm. And Gator made some suggestions, not only one about like the quality of the interaction, gave me really great suggestions on how to interact, but then also gave some, how about you add just these couple of pieces that give you plan B in case the combo fails. And so if you look in there, we have stuff in there like Conjurer's Bauble. Somebody stops freed from on the stack. Okay, tuck it back under and see if you can get it again. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that.
And you have And
you're on the A Caller game plan,
yep.
and it's gotten murdered 15 times, and so you don't have a way to really cast A Caller and hit the combo. Well, that's why we have Clever Conjurer and Tidewater Minion in there, which can also take Freed if I have the payoff.
That's right.
And so building Gator gave some really great suggestions, not only on like the interaction, but then also the resiliency.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, counter magic is really not played a ton, at least in comparison to previous iterations of the CPDH meta. Right now, it's much lower. This deck, what I think is very fun about it, is that it's very interactive. So if you look, I believe it's 10 counter spells.
Yep. It's 10 counter spells, 10 bounce spells.
Yeah. And so there's just a ton of forms of removal and counter magic. And the thing is like you were mentioning earlier, the counter magic was taken out initially because it's like, okay, we don't get the combo, who cares? We're just going to send 4/4s at everybody's face. But these counter spells can actually start to interact with the table, so that I am also in the early game presenting answers to someone else trying to combo off. Because let's be honest, this is not going to be the first combo deck to go off. It's much slower than some of the others.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got here, was through one, just my own sort of thought process about the deck, but then also conversations with you, conversations with Gator, with Jonathan, which is the neat thing about this format, is that it's a very community-based format, and we're all helping each other, trying to be the best we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really illustrative. I think the goal of today's stream for us is to find essentially, like, when I saw you working on the Freed from the Real combo, and it clicked for me that Freed from the Real applied to a target that can't die really dramatically reduces the number of answers that you can have to this combo. And I think that this just has to be the correct way to go. And so I'm very interested in taking my list and retaining the elements of it that I like, or the list that we constructed basically, all those months ago, and integrating the Freed from the Real combo in it, taking what you've learned from your experience and integrating that, and seeing where it takes us. So what we're showing right here is the compare feature on Moxfield, kind of the best deck building software out there right now. And one of the things that I'm immediately noticing is that we have some mana sinks and some payoffs that are basically just sink a bunch of mana into it to utilize the Freed combo. So Third Path Savant, Secret Door. We also have, let's see, are those the two main?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's those two.
Those are. I mean, there's not a ton of these. But basically, I really like these cards in the context of this combo. I also see Step Through, which is great. That can find Third Pass Savant because it's a wizard. It can also be a bounce spell. So this is a modal tutor as well as a way to stay alive. Another card that people had pointed out during the original building was the Dreamscape Artist. And so let's pull that one up here. And actually, let's see if we can change the view.
I'm actually very, very high on this card for the list. It looks there's so many interesting play patterns. This is what I want to get into today. Yeah. I mean, it's Harrow. It's basically putting Harrow into your hand, and for every card. And the really neat thing is, I think I'm just going to jump right in and talk about play patterns with this. So the neat thing about this card, again, this is a human spell shaper, for 2 and a blue tap. You can discard a card and sacrifice a land, and search your library for up to 2 basic lands. Put one of them onto the battle, but put them both onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Yeah. What's interesting about the play patterns? Untapped, right? So the interesting play patterns about this can be things like, okay, you have some threats coming at your face, and you have the mana sufficient to, let's say, tap to animate a land to put up a block to help give you maybe an extra turn. You're not going to be losing as much life. But then you're going to lose that land, right? Yep. When you activate Dreamscape Artist, sack that land, and then go get 2 basics put into play untapped. And now you have mana up for interaction. Yeah, it's incredibly cheap. It's doing something that when I've played this deck, the deck feels
Not gonna lie, Avalanche Caller feels great to play. For me personally, for those of you who've watched a lot of my content, I'm a bit of a boomer Magic player in the sense that I really like my 3% ROI. I like my consistency. I like lots of ramp. I always like having access to my command zone, um, and um, and so the deck has felt really good. But one of the things that I did notice was that frequently I would have more mana than I would have lands to really animate. And so Dreamscape Artist is great that way because we're at no cost to our mana rocks. We are amplifying and ramping with more lands, and that's hugely important. So I think Dreamscape Artist is one of the ones that I'm like most interested in seeing. So we're gonna add this into the sideboard. The sideboard is gonna act as our transition zone between your deck and the approach that I have here. I like Step Through a lot. This one's definitely going in. I also like Academy Wall. I think this is a great card. We have a Shrine Steward. This one,
Yeah, I put Academy Wall in. If I'm not mistaken, that was a Gator suggestion. Really didn't need to convince me much on that. Again, so that links up well with Dreamscape Artist in the sense that so I get to be interactive during the game. Let's say I bounce a threat coming at me, or I bounce a Malcolm or something that's about to combo off. Those kinds of things. The nice thing about Academy Wall is I do that. I can then do a little bit more card selection.
Yeah.
And then also with the Dreamscape Artist, the underappreciated thing is when you're getting 2 lands out of your deck, you are infinitely improving the quality of your draws each turn.
Yeah.
So the likelihood that you draw into that combo piece that you need is higher.
It goes up. Yeah, and I think there's the effect won't be seen on the first use of it, but after the second, you're starting to get to the point where you've reduced the size of your library by 4 cards that you're like happy to not see. And I think that can't be understated. It's not the first use even. It's more like the second or the third when you're like, now I have 6 less lands in my deck. It's like, well, holy crap! If you're at the point where you're activating this, you're looking at maybe having reduced your dead draws by 20%, 30% maybe. It could be really significant. So Dreamscape's definitely in. I like Academy Wall too because it liberates us in the early game to not have to hold up our mana for blockers. We basically have one, and it's going to generate advantage throughout the course of the game that will help us find what we want to do. Lantern of Revealing looks pretty good here too with any scry effects. We're basically able to scry something on top when we untap, or maybe we scry it on top. Generally, if we're scrying it on top at instant speed, we're also drawing it. But if we scry it on top and we're not drawing it, then we can use Lantern before the end of the turn to put it into play, which is great. So I like this one as well. Trinket Mage seems like a very easy include here for the main purpose of getting Everflowing Chalice or Aether Spellbomb.
Everflowing Chalice, Secret Door, Aether Spellbomb are the big ones. Yep. But also it can't be understated. It will also get Conjurer's Bauble. So if I do lose combo for some reason, I can grab that Conjurer's Bauble and try again.
Is this the only card that allows us to recycle a card from our graveyard?
No, I am on similar to Gretchen lists. Gretchen will play 1 Archaeomancer effect. And so this is on 1 Archaeomancer to be able to grab something out of the graveyard.
Yeah. So this is one of the big differences here is that we're not on the Archaeomancers much. And I can see it being reasonable that we don't play them at all. Because the main thing that we're actually looking to get back that we can't is Freed. Although the number of answers...
High Tide would be the other one. So if you can't get High Tide, the combo kind of falls apart. So it's really there. Archaeomancer is there as an answer to blue decks who may disrupt the combo. And that's something we could talk about because I've done a lot of thinking about this, and actually in playing the deck, discovered 1 more, maybe 2 more vulnerabilities that the deck has. But again, that's what's interesting about A-Caller is that hexproof. In the last game that I played, what was exciting was it was a turn 6 win. It would have been turn 5, except I missed a land drop. What was exciting was I played Avalanche Caller in response. Somebody cast a removal spell. I was able to immediately activate A-Caller, animate the land, and then somebody was like, "Wait, can we take out the land?" It was a hexproof, and they're like, "No."
Yeah, I mean there's a part of me that almost thinks that the way to approach this is to eliminate the redundancy for the combo, deploy the combo when we are able to assemble it, and then if we can't, this is the beauty of Avalanche Caller, which is, oh, my combo didn't work. Well, it'd be a shame if I had to animate 8 lands and like swing at you for 36, or it does have this ability to just fucking smear people across the pavement with its lands. And I think that there's a part of me that wants to really like we have this combo that we are looking to play, that we are looking to deploy, but ultimately if it doesn't work out, I don't know that I'm that concerned. And
the nice thing is that's what exactly, it gives it a way to pivot.
Yep.
And one of the play patterns that I use with the deck is I'm starting to say to tables, because they're looking at it and they're going, okay, this is a combo deck, right? You're on Freed combo. And so with our meta, with the aggro decks, they're like, okay, gotta take them out. What I start doing is saying, guys, I'm casting Avalanche Caller right now, and I don't have combo in hand. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you against combo at this point. If I'm casting a caller and I got 8 lands, and that I'm just casting a caller and doing nothing else, please be assured I'm here to help aggro.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and so one of the things you're highlighting on is something that I have been really interested in imparting to people lately, which is this concept of like coalitionary behavior. And like you want to be, in this meta, I think it's a pretty, like, if people know what you're doing, if people have a good understanding of what the format is capable of and what your deck does and how your deck combos. And so basically I'm stating, when people have proper information and experience with what a combo deck does, it's a pretty hostile environment for it. If you're the only combo player there, you're going to have to bullshit like crazy to get people to not kill you first and foremost, which they really should do. And so what I like about this is that we can actually present a reasonable coalitionary argument where we're honest about the fact that we don't have the combo at the time, that we are just playing the A caller to increase pressure on players that the aggro players might be trying to kill anyways. And so I think that's an amazing game theory standpoint where we can barter our way to earning more time by doing that sort of a thing. Also knowing that the longer we get, the more lands we have in play, the more we can animate when we do need to be defensive and when people start to identify us as a threat. So definitely a lot to like about this here. So let's take a look at some of the cards that we've added into the sideboard here. I basically cherry picked the ones that I found interesting here, and we're going to move them in. So let's do a Dreamscape Artist. This is going to move into the main deck. This is going to be a ramp spell here, and it's also a creature, which I love. I do love that. Let's see, do we even have a place for creatures? I love this this category here called fuckery. It's an excellent category. So let's go Dreamscape Artist. We're going to go Switch Printings. We're going to go Creatures. Oops, not Switch Printings. We are looking to go create a tag. Oh, wait, let's see, tags. Change tags. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to do Creatures like that. The Trinket Mage will come in as well. Trinket Mage is going to, let's see, where did it go? Where are you, Trinket Mage? Oh, there we go, because we haven't moved it into the main deck yet. So we'll move that into the main deck. This is going to go under Creatures. It's also going to go under Tutors here. And so when we add something like Dreamscape Artist or Walking Atlas, I presume that what's going to come with it is some cut from the ramp section. Now, I noticed in your list you have 13 ramp pieces, and I think I'm pretty interested in staying like well above 15, but I think we're going to find a sweet spot in between where we can make that work. A card like Decanter of Endless Water could potentially come out. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, that is one that I think could come out. I'm looking now at my rocks, and I don't believe I have that one. I'm just on Thought Vessel.
Yeah, I think the Decanter can come out. I also have Pristine Talisman in here, which also could potentially come out. I like that it's giving us some form of life gain in a deck that,
Yeah,
you know,
it's really that's one of those ones where it's really sort of a preference about what you like and what works for your play
yep,
patterns.
yep,
I had it in an earlier version of the list. It gained me some life. So that I'm typically trying though, like with the ramp, to be really pretty quick with it. As you can see, like I have prismatic lens, I
yep,
have sky diamond. I'm trying to get some of that ramp down early.
yeah, yeah,
In part because, as you know, the meta has just gotten so fast.
yeah.
So to get some of that ramp out, to be able to respond to some of the threats that are coming at me is important.
For sure. And what you're going to see here in my list is that I have some basically we have a curve that goes from half of our rocks are 2 mana to a couple of 3 mana rocks, about half the number. So we have 5, and then we have 10 2 mana rocks ish. We have 5 3 mana rocks, and then we have a couple of 4 mana rocks, and then we have the the 5 mana rock.
Yeah, yeah,
And basically the reason that some of these are in here is similar to the Academy wall, which is that we just want incidental bodies that can do stuff. So we have the Stone Retrieval unit, which is just basically this is a 4 mana rock that also comes with a 2/3. Which is pretty cool. We can use this for the activated ability on Avalanche Caller. And then we have the Koilos Rock, which is basically the same thing, giving us a body. It is flash, which is pretty cool. And something I did realize about this list after I'd played it for a little bit is that flash and instant speed are really important when what you want to do is hold up mana. When what you want to do is hold up mana to be able to threaten activation, that's really important. Um, and
many
so
times when you're playing this, you're gonna be land go, and then just waiting to see what the table does. So to be able to at the end step right before your turn be able to flash in something like that, I can totally
huge.
see. A lot of the draw spells I have in here. So we have a lot of instant speed. I know we'll get to draw later, but a lot of the draw spells are instant speed, not because they're the best quality, but just
Yeah.
because they're instant.
And high
And
and
that
high
matters.
volume. High volume,
Yeah.
instant speed. So like for example, one of the classics that Noyark really likes is Draconic Lore, which looks bad. It's like 6 mana, draw 3, instant speed. But the instant speed is really important. So that's another thing we're going to be tuning when we go through this here. Alex Scott says, excellent plan B, which I like a lot. Yeah, great. It's cool that we're going to be looking, by the way, at Alex's Tatiova Steward of the Tides list, because this is another list that has kind of a strong ramp plan to it. So, okay, some counter spells that I really like here are Unwind and Rewind. Part of the reason for that is that these allow us to actually still animate our lands, and being able to counter things freely and then say, but I still have blockers is cannot be understated. So I think what we're going to do is bring these in as high priority cards to be bringing
I,
in.
initially I had them in because that was a play pattern I had again in your Yorn God of Winter in EDH. Doing those kinds of counter spells made sense because
Yep.
I could keep lands untapped. I took it out of the list at a certain point. Some folks were saying, well, they're not that good. I know that you had some difficulty with them in Murmuring Mystic, I believe, but Murmuring Mystic is on
Yeah.
a different play pattern. Here, I think it was Gator that recommended. He said, these seem like really good here, and I
Yeah.
agree.
I think that they're great. I think the trouble you run into with those spells is when they don't resolve. It's pretty devastating, and so
It's tough.
that's one thing that I want to be cautious about there. And I don't think we want to go too much. I don't know that I want to go too much deeper than what we have here. We have yeah, this is probably about what I'm thinking, because part of me is feeling like counter spells. We basically just need like one when we're going to do our combo. I think we can expect one counter spell in response to our Freed from the Real, but that the likelihood is that there won't be a whole lot more than that. So 7 of them with all the cards we draw, we're going to hit one of these, and we'll be able to pull that off. So that's good there. I'm looking at just the tightness of our slots. I don't think Lantern of Revealing is going to make it. I like this card, but I'm even looking at this right here and seeing, like, with all these draw spells and the power of them, there's a part of me that thinks some of these mana sink type rocks are a nice thing to do with our mana, but almost excessive. Do we actually need
I
to
think you could
loot?
reduce. Yeah, I think you could reduce the number of rocks you have. I like Lantern because of getting the land into play and being able. It's essentially a scry, and it fits the play patterns
Of putting the
that
land into
I'm
play.
looking to do. Yeah, putting the land into play. It fits the play patterns of end of turn before I go into my turn. Check and see am I going to draw a land or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Some of those are effects that I like. But certainly I think your instinct to cut some ramp
Yeah.
it makes some sense
Yeah.
because you're gonna be looking to put in a little bit more of that interaction. It looks like, and
Yep.
a little bit more removal.
So one of the things actually that I'm realizing that we need to do too is let's just cut the previous combo first. So the previous
Yeah,
combo is Peregrine Drake. We're gonna remove this into considering. Um, we've got Dramatic Reversal, which is without the previous combo. This is like just a big ritual. So we're gonna tuck that away. I think we're gonna go down to one or two Archaeomancers. So we'll just get that done right away. Um, we're also going to go up on snow-covered islands. So like Cave of Temptation can go. And we'll just add snow-covered islands to it in its place. Um, we have Study Hall and Opal Palace. I'm not sure we need Study Hall. Um, I think the deck draws so many cards that it's almost like, do we need this?
yeah. With mine, I pretty much I did 34 islands, Mystic, and Opal
Yeah.
Palace. Yeah.
And I think I'm comfortable with playing like 34 to 35 lands. I know in yours you have 36. Um, and we've got
Going
Drift of,
a little heavy on the lands, in part because of like Dreamscape Artist, hopefully getting some of those out,
yep.
and just wanting to make sure I hit those land drops.
Yeah, great. So we've got Secret Door is going to go into dedicated combo cards. We've also got, let's see. So High Tide goes in there as well. So we'll bring that in. This is going to go into the main deck. And then there we go, High Tide. I think we can take out Tamio's Completion. This is a card
Yes.
that I had in here as a way to tutor for with Shrine Steward. Basically, if we needed to find removal, the idea was that something like this is going to be able to tutor for a removal piece, but we also have Vanishing to do the same thing for cheaper. Vanishing can tutor for one, play it out, phase the creature out. That's all 3 mana. Tamio's Completion, that's 4 mana. So I think we can tuck that. And then let's bring in, so Shrine Steward. Yep, this is definitely a card that we want in here. This is going to be a tutor as well. Let's bring over Trinket Mage for that too. With Trinket Mage in the deck, Aether Spellbomb is going to come in, which means we need to replace one of the removal spells. What did you have for removal? You don't probably have Snapback. And
You have Snapback.
You do.
Yep.
You don't have Aether Snipe actually doesn't play in this deck anymore, does it? Because we're not doing Flicker combo.
No, because we're not doing Flicker, and then also I just found it felt like a dead draw at times. Like what I was really looking for was something more like an Into the Royal or Blink of an Eye or something like that.
Yep.
Usually I was pretty much like evoking it. That would be the only play line I really wanted to do with it. So yeah, I think that one's fine to cut.
Aether Spellbomb is amazing. So yeah.
And getting back to Vanishing again, when this is a deck that wants to pivot back and forth, right? Like it can be combo, but it can also be mid range on a combat game plan. I think something like Vanishing is really good. It gives you opportunities to like talk to the table a little bit. A Vanishing on something like a Sculptor of Winter against Gretchen, that. You know what I mean? That's something that it's much harder for the Gretchen player to interact with that. Impossible? No, nothing's impossible. But I mean, it's
hard.
It's harder than interacting with Tamio safekeeping.
Vanishing is pure cancer. This card is a real problem when you put it on. This is a blue Oubliette, but it takes a little bit of mana. But you usually don't need the mana. You don't need to spend the mana on the thing because in reality, people have very limited answers to a card like this. And if you have open mana and you can activate it multiple times, people are only ever going to try and pull the plug on getting rid of this when you don't have mana up, because they know that that if you just like, dick their enchantment removal spell, the one in their deck, or maybe the two, and really that's like most decks. Most decks run like 2 or 3 answers, maybe to an enchantment or or an aura. So yeah, this is, or a removal spell could do it too. They could try and kill their own commander, but phasing out means it doesn't go back to the command zone. So it's a great card for the deck. Some other things I wanted to ask you about. You saw the Flywheel Racer. What do you think about this card?
It's an interesting card.
Yeah, this is basically
you can crew it with Caller.
Yep. It's
so
a
that's definitely
Springleaf Drum that's also a
Right.
creature, that's also potentially a blocker.
Right.
It basically, the way I see this is, if we did want to focus more on 2 mana rocks and shave away from 3, then cards like Springleaf Drum even become playable. Because like, what are we actually doing with Avalanche Caller? We're like, Springleaf Drum actually could go in this list, right?
Yeah, I don't have it in there just because if I'm on the combo game plan, a Caller isn't coming down until like the last minute. But it's totally justifiable to say, let's play a Springleaf Drum, and it's just going to target a Caller each time. That makes total sense. Flywheel is interesting, maybe worth experimenting with. I was interested by the card when it first was previewed as well. I don't know how it would play here, but it's certainly worth looking at.
Yeah, basically, if we're looking at like, what I'm kind of interested in is potentially cutting even some of these activated ability type stuff like Bonder's Ornament, Network Terminal. I know these are great things that we can do at instant speed if people don't like mess with us, but I just think that like our card draw is so phenomenal here that there's a part of me that just thinks that these cards are just excessive. And if we want to be like moving further up the curve faster, cards like Springleaf Drum and Flywheel Racer are more 2-drop rocks basically, and 1-drop for Springleaf, but and that's pretty appealing to me
because it fits that play pattern of
Yep.
Draw, go, hold up the interaction. But if you're trying to cut rocks, I can see that. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Nimble Claw Adept is a cool card. We're gonna cut it though because you can only do it once, and it's 4 mana. So we're gonna replace that with we already added it, which is or did we? You have let's see, what was the card that you, let's see, we got to go back here, go back to compare, and then do here. Is that going to find it for us? Yeah. We're going to bring in Clever Conjurer. And so this is something you can do with Freed from the Rail, correct? Is that the idea?
And again, yeah, that was another suggestion that Gator had made, and I like it. Again, it makes it resilience, because sometimes we're going back to resiliency and pivoting. Let's say I'm on that mid-range game plan, and then let's say a Colors gets bounced, or a Caller is getting sent back to the command zone because the control deck doesn't like it there, or the combo deck doesn't like it there. Now what do? A Caller is costing 8, and I'm not going to have enough mana to be able to animate a land and also play Freed from the Rail. Clever Conjurer can come down mid-game, sit there, maybe not be that intimidating, but then also be a body that can take Freed from the Real with less resiliency than the land can. But that's okay, because we're doing this because the other option is off the table or much harder to achieve.
Yeah, that's interesting. So basically, if we have Freed from the Real and we have High Tide, we have everything we need, right?
And then the other idea with Conjurer, if I'm not mistaken, is a wizard. So we can tutor it up with that.
The only thing there's a part of me that thinks that instead of Clever Conjurer, we just play Dizzy Spell, because Dizzy Spell is basically finding the thing that we need to make the Freed from the Real combo, right? So it's basically like the B. If Freed from the Real is the A, then the B is either Clever Conjurer or it's any land we have plus High Tide, right? The difference being that Clever Conjurer can block, but Clever Conjurer is kind of a scary target from Freed from the Real. It just dies and gets dies to everything. And a part of me about this combo, what I like about it is that it's going on a hexproof land. That's
That's the
perhaps the
thing.
most
It's
appealing thing about it.
it's one of those things about, as you build yours, how much are you trying to pivot there? If you're trying to be able to hit the combo, hopefully you would need to be in a situation where it can't be interacted with, or
Yeah.
if it is, it's going to be something from hand, and then that's why I'm on a few more counter spells probably than you are right
Yep.
now,
Yep. Yeah.
because then that way I can stop that if it were to happen.
Oh, we can get rid of the flickers here too. I just realized we
Yeah,
still had those there. We're probably going to find
don't need them.
some examples of things that are leftovers from that. Um, Merchant Scroll, we have Drift of Phantasms, Trinket Mage, Shrine Steward. The I also see we have Walking Atlas in here. Um, let's see, what do we have? Lantern Revealing Scare Tiller. So, idea being that that is going to act as a 4 mana
And
mana rock.
it's a 4 mana rock, so similar to how you're thinking about Coilless Rock. That's how I'm thinking of Scare Tiller. I have to put up a block with a land. I lose the land, right? Okay.
Yep.
Now what do I do?
Yeah.
So I can use Scare Tiller's ability. Scare Tiller, I love the card. It's a PDH Pals card. They love it
Oh
too.
yeah.
The more Wizards prints cards, somebody must be in a back office deciding that they want to just make Scare Tiller go up, 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 up. It gets
Yeah.
better with each set.
Yeah,
And
for
if you're
sure.
playing a Springleaf Drum in this list, you get Scare Tiller can be the target, and then you're getting your land back. So that makes it a little bit better as well. Also a target for Network Terminal. So there's just a couple of options there. It can also just attack to get you a land back. If that's the floor of the card,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I find interesting. There's a part of me that feels like if I have a creature, I kind of want it to be blocking, and it does block the first time it comes down, and then the rest of it, it's pretty much tapping every time. But with the number of cards we're drawing, it's probably putting a land into play every time, which is pretty cool. In that way, it's. I mean, I guess the question is like, how does that compare to Walking Atlas, which comes down on 2?
Again, I think it's building that resiliency, and it's one of those cards where I'm experimenting with it. I think it has as much as I know it fits into a more casual play pattern, and it fits kind of the PDH Pals meta for sure. I do think it does have places in competitive, and so I'm testing, does it have a place here?
Yeah.
Is this one of the places where it fits? I may find after I play with it several times that, okay, maybe it's not accomplishing what I need here,
Right.
or as efficiently as I need. But it's certainly, I think, worth testing out.
Yeah.
If I can drop one land off of this, great. If I get 2, then we're gravy. Then I'm feeling real good.
Yeah, I mean, if you start getting into like that too, I mean, even with one land, ramping into play, it's a pretty good deal. 1 mana, 4 mana, 1/4 that puts a land into play tapped on the turn following is still reasonable. It's just a question of what is this better than. And I do like that it's coming on a body. That's pretty appealing to me because a 1/4 blocks really well. And this deck is going to need to block. We are a combo deck, so.
Yeah, it's really relevant.
Then there's Navigation Orb and Wayfarer's Bauble, which I know that I want these cards because we have the mana rocks for the activations, but we kind of do want to prioritize putting lands into play. So I'm kind of wondering where we find the cuts to make that work. How have you felt about
the cuts? Was in some of the ramp. I cut Candlekeep Sage.
Yep, I'm gonna do the same thing. I've drawn an insane number of cards off that card before, but
and that's the thing. So that card I cut in part because it doesn't help me pivot.
Yep.
So if I'm doing the combo game plan, there's never going to be I will feel like a dead draw because I'm never going to play a caller until I'm ready to combo.
Interesting.
If I'm in the mid-range plan, right? If I'm in the mid-range plan, then okay, yeah, it's a great card because a caller is probably going to get targeted a couple times. That's just the reality. And somebody's going to try to remove a caller because they're thinking maybe he combos off next turn. So I like it for that reason.
Yeah.
But it's not resilient to both sides of the plan.
Right, right. That makes sense. So I think some of the ones we can cut, Fractured Power Stone looks like a cut to me. That's probably the worst rock we have. Prismatic Lens is also among that, although colorless is not that big of a deal. The fact is, it comes into play untapped. Um, there's Stone Retrieval Unit, which could come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's producing a tap land for 4. That's not going to work. I like Stern Lesson a lot. Instant Speed Ramp that's also looting is great. Pristine Talisman may be on the chopping block. I know I gain a lot of life on this, and that's pretty important to me, I think. But it's also like the very worst of all the rocks we have here. It feels like.
Kind of thing, when it comes down on 3, when games are averaging, 9 to 11.
So it's going to gain
you're going to get maybe 6 to 8 life.
That's
so
a lot.
I cut.
That
is. It is. I'm not saying it isn't. It's great. It's gained me a lot of life before.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a tricky one. I took it out just because I had to cut somewhere. So that was one of the ones where I was like, okay, I'm going to cut that one.
Yeah, it's important for us to recognize that when it comes to cuts and decks, a lot of times we have to make challenging cuts of good cards that serve a purpose. The question is then, if we cut that or Bonder's Ornament, perhaps. I think that there's perhaps some validity to the idea that Bonder's Ornament is essentially any one of our big draw spells, but it's like we can do it if we don't need to activate our lands, and that's really good. So yeah, let's start with cutting Pristine Talisman and see how that feels. We may have to revisit that. There's also Honored Heirloom. I think this is a great card. We have a lot of mana open. I think it's a good card for us to have, and we only have one piece of graveyard hate, so we can stack functions here. So yeah, it feels good. Coilless Rock is another one that I'm pretty excited about, and I don't know that I want to cut it. I think the flash part of it is like, boy, this deck like loves the idea of ramping at instant speed with a body, like pretty high on that. So we have 5 slots that we've opened up, which is great. We've got all the counter spells we want. 10 removal spells is pretty good. So now we can start to add in other things. So we could be playing the Scare Tiller could go in. The Navigation Orb and the Wayfarer's Bauble both feel like cards I really want in the main deck here. Again, these are also like mana sinks if we don't have to tap our lands. These things are ways to put more lands into play, which is great. We don't have any of the tutors, so let's go back here. Or we don't have some of the tutors. We don't have like Dizzy Spell, which we probably need to play.
Yeah. There was a moment where this deck wasn't on Dizzy Spell because, again, just looking for where can I make cuts. But at the same time, I was like, okay, so the floor of the card is I stop some aggro coming at my face. Like if I have to actually just cast Dizzy Spell. But the ceiling was there's just several different targets for it that are all of which are relevant for the game. So I felt like, okay, it's got to be here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we're playing Shield Wall Sentinel for Tidewater Minion. Is that it?
Shield Wall Sentinel can give me Tidewater Minion. It can also get me Secret Door.
Or Secret Door. Holy shit.
It can also get me Drift of Phantasms to then get me Freed from the Real.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a must. I'm also noticing that you have Tidewater. Boy, that's a pretty cool hit for this. I like that this is just a 5-mana 4/4 too. It's kind of silly.
It's pretty thick.
This is a card that I've been like looking at for some time now.
Yep. And again, the other thing to think about is, so if I pay 4 into it, it's basically like one of those animated lands.
Yeah.
So it's replicating the play pattern. Is it strictly worse than the lands? Yeah. But again, it's about versatility.
Yeah. I like your focus on the versatility. That's definitely important. And I like how things are overlapping here as well. There's Okay, now we've talked a little bit about fadeaway in the past. This is perhaps one of
Yep.
the better decks for fadeaway, and I think I'm pretty happy to keep it. The idea of like, mid game completely ruining like an aggro player who's going to have to decide whether to keep their board or to keep their ability to play the game. Um,
Actually had a chance to play this twice while playing the deck, and it will now forever stay in the deck.
yeah,
I'm never getting rid of it.
yeah. This is an
The
amazing
last
card.
time I played it on turn 3. I was in a pod with Battlecry Goblin, Lagomos Hand of Hatred, and Amber Hardy Outlander.
Oh my God, you took like
So
what, like 12 cards from the table?
yeah, so the Lagomos had gotten their board mostly wiped in the previous turn. By Amber Hardy did some interaction there to take out Lagomos, because Lagomos was starting to get a little spooky. But Battlecry Goblin was advancing a pretty significant board, and just the prior turn, Amber had played a Molten Monstrosity, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have a lot of aggro coming at my face very soon.
Yeah.
So I was able to cast this, and the Battlecry Goblin player decided to save Battlecry Goblin and sack a land or two, along with, I think, one of the other utility goblins. And then it slowed down the Amber player enough to keep me in the game so that on turn 6, I could achieve the combo.
Wow.
Otherwise, I was going to be gone by turn 6. So
Yeah.
this is one that isn't coming out. You have to time it well. And there will be times you go to do it and it's not going to have the result you want. But when it does, man, is it good.
Yeah.
It is just good.
Yeah, exactly. And presenting that problem of, are you going to continue to play the game after you kill me, or are you going to slow down your aggro, is great, because people probably shouldn't. I mean, it's arguably like throwing the game pretty hard to sacrifice everything you have, unless the player playing the fadeaway is almost dead and sacking lands doesn't actually save them. But in a multiplayer game where everybody is like going to have to play the game, and there's still 4 players in the game, fadeaway is going to be creatures. It's a sweeper.
Yep.
It's a blue sweeper. And this deck just doesn't have a ton of creatures, and none that we really care about so much that we're going to have issues. So I'm definitely high on that. What do you think about Flood? This is another card we've talked about a little bit.
Yeah, I like Flood as a plan B. Again, I'm on the combo game plan. I don't have a color in play, but I have aggro coming at me.
Yeah. This is
another way
like
to tap
anti-Dargo, like
Yep.
anti-Sailor, not Sailor's Bane, because that's not going to be tenable to. I don't know, maybe pay 6. You probably could, but it's going to be for any Voltron commander, right? Single, tons of damage, like a Levon or a Kenra Spell Spear. Just tap it down. You're not coming after me. And you communicate with them. You say, so
Yes.
talk to me, buddy. Like, where's this going? And know that if you answer, I'm not telling you, I'm going to tap it down. Right? Like, I'll invalidate your whole turn. And you should know, folks, that if you ever in a game, if I ask you where something's going and you choose to hold it close to the chest, I'm going to treat it as if you're coming at me. So yeah, just
You probably should. I mean, that communication like needs to happen in the game.
Yeah.
And it also, it's good because as you have those conversations, it opens up like, okay, some good threat assessment conversations. I mean, there are times Avalanche Caller is going to be the biggest threat at the table. But other times, it's going to be somebody else. So you're like, okay, so are you really concerned about me right now? Or maybe this should be going that other way.
Yeah. And I can, and if they want to actually progress their game plan, and they want to progress it against somebody else, and they don't want to waste their entire turn for the 2 mana that I have, rational people will choose to do that if I'm not the number 1 most scary thing at the table. And sometimes it's going to be correct. Sometimes you throw your entire team and you say, nope, you need to die, like for sure. And I'm going to make you use all of your mana so that the next person can kill you. That will happen. But in a lot of cases, this is going to be a piece in play that says, look, let's talk about threat assessment right now. If you want to waste your turn, I'll waste it for sure. But if you want to like go and get productive against somebody else, like do the thing, and I won't stop you. But I'm going to tap it down if you don't tell me. Robert says, as you should. Asking gives you a lot of info. Alex says that's not bargaining, that's threatening. It is. I mean, it's both. It's like because what we're saying is that if you're gonna come at me, if you're gonna come at me, I'm gonna tap it down. That's a promise. If you're not gonna tell me what you're doing because you think you're being smooth about it, I'm gonna tap it down. I'm just gonna tell you the rules right now. And if you're looking to go at somebody else, I'm not gonna tap it down. That's fine. So it is a threat, but it's also an opportunity for them to not waste their turn if they think that their damage is more important. So it's an offer, but it is like, yeah, you have a thing in play. So, and threatening is kind of bargaining. So you have to remember, negotiation can only ever be made from a place of strength. Quote me, clip this. You can't negotiate if you don't have a place of strength. So yeah, Flood does say, come at me and I will do this thing. If you're not going to tell me, then I'm going to do the thing and I'm going to tap it down. I'm going to waste your turn. And in some cases that's going to be needed. You will need to do that. If an Avalanche Caller player is going the fuck off and has like all this crazy stuff in play and is like presenting combos and all that, then yeah, you might need to pair up with the board to say you need to swing everything at them so that they have to tap out with Flood, and then everybody else is going to be able to get in. But early game we're going to use this as a bartering chip. So yeah.
The other nice thing about it is that it replicates the play pattern of the deck.
Yeah, it does.
So when you have a caller in play, what is the response of the table? They're going to start counting the number of islands you have.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, if I attack here, does he have enough blockers?
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not tapping anything down, but you are replicating that play pattern of like, is it going to be okay to attack? The other thing is, what are we doing again? We're keeping up that mana, right? It's a land go, end of turn. I'm going to tap down your thing, and now I'm going to swing in. So if you're on the aggressive game plan, it's not just control; it's also helping you swing in to be able to chip away some damage.
Let's also be clear: you can use this on your opponent's stuff to help your opponents get damage in. Tap any non-flying creature. I also like that Flood is going to stay out even when Avalanche Caller is dead, right? So that's also another piece about this. So I think we are going to be keeping this one. I'm bullish on it. We can even tutor for it with Dizzy Spell, which is pretty cool. So we're at 100 cards right now. We actually have a lot of the same things filled. The main difference being that I have 3 less counter spells. I have 1 more Archaeomancer. I have more ramp, a little bit less lands. And then... I think we could find a couple of other differences as well. I do feel compelled to find room for these two, and I'm having a hard time deciding what needs to go here. Maybe it's like, is it possible that Springleaf Drum and Flywheel Racer being so much more efficient is why we would cut these now that we don't have Dramatic Reversal?
Yeah, I'm still big on Sisay's and Urgolem's Eye just because it's 1 rock, tap it, make a warrior.
So efficient. Yeah.
So it's good for that. If I would say if you're looking to test some new cards, I think that's worth it. Again, the Springleaf, I'm very high on Springleaf Drum in general. So I think if that's a card you want to try, I think it's worth it. And the other thing too is it is a card that, right, you can use Springleaf Drum as, so this is part of the combo game plan. I don't have it in the current deck. It might be something that I look at, but this is another play pattern where sometimes you want to be able to hit the combo at a certain point in the game where you don't want to have to be tapping an island to be able to get High Tide into play. Yeah. Right. So this is just another option where it's super easy to have it just sitting there. You cast a caller and then you have that 1 mana to be able to cast High Tide to then be able to combo. So it helps the turbo. It's not really turbo, but you know what I mean. It helps the speed of the combo plan too. So I can see that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm happy on that one. I think you made a compelling reason or compelling argument for Sisay's Ring and Urgolem's Eye. I think they're phenomenal cards. We could be looking at then either Bonder's Ornament or Network Terminal, but those also have synergy with the deck. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 2-mana slots. And I think that the formula of 10 2-mana, 5 3-mana, and a couple of upper end stuff like that is a good formula for the ramp when we're playing this like crazy high number. Question is,
I
though,
think now because you have Springleaf Drum, you probably can cut one of the two. Like maybe Star Compass can go or Guardian Idol because you have Springleaf Drum in there.
yeah, I think that's right. Guardian Idol is the worst of them because it's colorless, tapped, and we don't really want to spend 2 mana to animate this when we have Avalanche Caller. So I think that can go. We also have, like, I do want these to be untapped, a lot of these, right? So maybe it is Star Compass.
Yeah.
Um, and then the only other thing we have is Flywheel Racer. Billy J says Springleaf over Moonsnare, uncounterable bounce. Oh, we don't have Moonsnare in here either, do we? Moonsnare is actually pretty good. But the only other thing is that if we don't have Avalanche Caller, both Springleaf Drum and Moonsnare don't actually do anything.
Yeah.
Which maybe is a reason to stay away from them. It's the same with Flywheel Racer. I really do like the uncounterable bounce, especially in this deck, because we have plenty of mana. We can afford to pay 5. Most decks actually can't. They pretend like it's a removal spell, but it's really not. It's a bad mana rock that comes down on 1.
You know, I don't have Moonsnare prototype in mind, but let me think about this for a second because we have so many mana rocks, we definitely could use it. Tapping a rock is not great for it, but the channel might be good. I'm thinking now just for combo because you can put one of like a Gretchen Enchantland, you know, at the bottom of somebody's library. That might be relevant. Yeah, I can see a good argument for it. If you're trying to be a little bit more on the efficient side, we definitely are going to be able to. If this was in our opening hand, we can definitely pay for this on 1.
Right.
Yeah, I can see a good argument for it. I don't have it in mind. That might be something I look at.
So we have
I'm a big fan of channel.
13 creatures. Almost all of them except for Pneumatic Wall and Drift of Phantasms and Secret Door. So they're inexpensive rocks that are going to move us through our mana faster. They're half the mana, so that's certainly good. But it does create an avenue of interaction where somebody can, like, if we have multiple of these and we only have one creature in play, that's kind of not that great. Springleaf is probably the best of them then. But given that we don't really have a strong need for pips, we could also play the Moonsnare just because it would add a level of interaction to our deck. What do you all think about that? Moonsnare over Springleaf Drum. And actually, you know, some of these questions about these ramp, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we can still go down 1 on these, and we actually don't even, I don't know if we actually still have all the cards from your deck that we still want. So we don't have the Conjurer, and I think I am going to stay that way. We don't have the Conjurer's Bauble, so if we lose the Freed, it's not coming back.
That's really just a matter of how you want to play the deck. If I have the combo assembled, and I've presented it, you know, it could help me out to be like, okay, oh well, I lost it. Now I'm on the aggro game plan. I don't know if mid game I'm going to be able to present as aggressive a threat as some of the other aggro threats we have in the format. That said, I think it just, again, it's about the resiliency. How much do you want to dedicate to the combo?
Yeah.
So you can think about it in a sense as a form of card advantage. There might be situations where you just want to get something else that you want to tutor. What if you lose Secret Door? I mean, that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, or the Third Path Savant.
Yeah, maybe I'm like, I'm gonna put the Secret Door out there to block, and somebody's like, you know what? I know this is your payoff. I don't like it here. It's gone.
Yeah.
Let's get the Secret Door back. If you have the tutors for it.
So then
another one to consider
still remains a win condition.
Another one to consider that we haven't talked about, that I'm very high on, is Omen of the Sea. And that, in terms of the card advantage suite, I don't know if you have it in your version.
I don't. Generally speaking, I'm staying away from any sort of like card selection type stuff, which I don't know, maybe that's incorrect given, the fact that this is like the previous build of this was a bit more accidental combo. It's mid-range combo, whereas now we're looking a little bit more like a 50-50 combo. It's still combo mid-range, I guess, because it's really not urgent to end the game.
Here's several reasons why I like it. The first, again, so we like things with flash. So we can flash this in at end step. It's going to scry to then draw us a card. So it's going to be card selection and card draw.
Yep.
It, again, still replicates those play patterns. I can sack this to scry to again at somebody's end step later.
Yeah, I like that.
So now I'm digging really 5 because, I do like this. Oh, I didn't like those 2. I'll get this one. Oh, I got another land. Okay, I'm going to dig down 2 more.
Yeah.
It will also feed a treasure cruise. So I think that there's a lot of good reasons. I was unsure about it at first. The omens, I like them, and I want to like them more. Having the chance to have put this in the deck and to goldfish with it, I'm like, ooh, I really like this. Sometimes with the amount of combo pieces we have in here, being able to scry down 4, even 5, really is probably going to get you something that will assemble the combo.
Yeah,
so it's a matter of how much you want to dedicate to that.
So this is a like Think Twice, in a sense, except that instead of flashing it back to draw a card, we're scrying 2, so that the total value of the card is 2 cards for 5 mana on Think Twice, and for Omen of the Sea, it's 1 card scry 4 for Omen of the Sea. I actually think Twice fits here for the same reason, because it's a mana sink that we can use at instant speed. So I don't really like this card generally, but I think here it's actually pretty solid. Yeah, Alex Scott says, do you want me to prepare a sideboard for the deck? I don't have one right now, and I can make one real fast. Yep, let's do that. And then what we're going to do is we're pretty close here, and then we'll move over and we'll take a moment to look at Alex's Tatiova Steward of Tides deck. So I added Third Path Savant in here. This is another of our dedicated combo cards, but this is just an instant speed draw spell. So that's great. Think Twice in here. I think I want to cut something that isn't instant speed. So Mold Drifter is no longer a flicker target, but it is a body. So I kind of value that. We could cut something that's like
Mold Drifter.
You did?
But yeah, I did.
Is there something else though?
It was for that reason that you mentioned. I'm going to evoke it, and I'm probably not going to do anything else with it.
You know what we need to play? We probably need to play Meeting of Minds in here too, because Meeting of Minds is instant speed, and we have ways to discount it. This is the reason Meeting of Minds is so good is because 3 mana instant speed draw 2 is already a better divination. So if we just have our commander in play, this is good. And I think we're really looking for instant speed, and this is why like Omen of the Sea and Think Twice are going to make the cut over some of these other ones. What are some of the worst draw spells we have here? Like Brilliant Plan could go.
Yeah, I got Brilliant Plan.
Yeah, Brilliant Plan can go. I think Mysteries of the Deep is nice because even if we're not using the landfall, we can still cast it at instant speed. So sorcery speed, it's 5 mana, draw 3 if we hit a land. And if we didn't, then we can still cast it and draw 2. Tezzeret's Ambition, this is going to be just a 5 mana, draw 3. And actually, there's a better version of this card now, which is Vivisector's Insight.
Vivisurgeon's Insight.
Yeah, Vivisurgeon's Insight. Yeah.
So if you have an Ever Flowing Chalice in play, you get to proliferate that counter. That's great.
Yeah, I like that. So we're gonna take out Tezzeret's Ambition.
I did. That's a card that I want to like, especially because when I played one limited, it was like a house. But
yeah.
That one is if you have a way to proliferate that counter, I cut that one again. That was one of those ones where at a certain point I got to cut something. but it's certainly justifiable.
Now, Deep Analysis is an interesting card here. Do you think we have 3 life to give in this deck? Because I'm a bit concerned about that with this card. 10% of our life total goes to flashing this back in a format where people are like actively dying pretty rapidly. And there's a part of me that thinks that we have great draw and that we actually don't need to be like brutalizing our life total.
I can see a case for that.
6 mana draw 4.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
it's that's the thing. So I mean, I when selecting those, so like I cut some of the like draconic lures and brilliant plans, kept this one. Again, I can't remember. Did you stay on pristine talisman? If you did, then
cut.
sure, keep it.
I cut
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I think
So
it goes.
I can see a reason. I can see a reason not to. I'm on it, and I'm on it because this is like my panic button.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
so I'm not getting the combo, and I'm trying to get there. I'm going to be playing some deep analysis.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick here, we're going to take a brief moment here. I want to make sure Alex is around for when we deliver the feedback. So let's real quick here. I want to open this up and we can take a quick look at what Alex has sent me here. So we've got a Tatiova 2.0. Yeah, in Architect. Okay. So let's bring this over. And there we go. Okay, so let's take a look here. Alex says, "I'll be here all night." Yeah, Alex, you're a hero. You're always here for the streams, so do appreciate that. Okay, so this is a Tatiova Benthic Druid deck with the traditional Tidal Bore, the creatures that put the lands into play untapped. So this is actually like a traditional Tatiova deck. Okay, so one of the things about Tatiova is that if you're doing a traditional Tatiova deck, basically what I would be recommending right now is actually to play what I believe it's Crash has the list for this, and I don't know that I would deviate too far from that. And the only reason I say that is because I don't think there's a single person in this planet who's played more Tatiova than Crash has, and I would defer to his wisdom on how to build Tatiova combo. The main thing I would say is that you need to come prepared to face off against a lot of damage. So if you're gonna do this, I would recommend mimicking Crash's build, and then I would say run Tangle, Moment's Peace, and Weather the Storm. Those 3 cards. And that will help keep you alive. You can also consider looking at cards like Sky Shroud. It's called Sky Shroud. Ooh, basically what I'm looking for is any creature that produces a body while ramping. So let's go into Scryfall here, and we're going to do type creature. ID is less than or equal to Simic. We're going to do O, search, O, land, O, play. I mean, play is battlefield. So let's see if what we get for here. And we want to say battlefield because we want it to go into play. And the reason I think this is worth exploring is that what Tatiova is going to suffer from is just getting absolutely murdered. It's a very powerful deck, but it's a 5-mana commander. And it wants to have that commander out as fast as possible, and to not, it can play a long, grindy game, but, having these bodies in play, these incidental bodies that are going to basically be like speed bumps or maybe a full-on roadblock is strong. So let's do, and we're going to want it to be something not like Dawn Treader Elk, because Dawn Treader Elk is like, it has to die to do that. Let's see. So we have like Druid of the Emerald Grove, which sometimes puts them into the battlefield about half the time. We have Farhaven Elf is pretty interesting. I like the Farhaven Elf. Greater Tanuki is a pretty interesting one. This is uncounterable ramp on a creature that you can actually just play. So I don't know if this is the kind of efficiency that they're looking for in these decks. And I will say too, I'm not a Tatiova expert, so take this all with a grain of salt. But something like that could be interesting. Ondu Giant is one that I've played in the past, and I think if I were playing Tatiova, I would be looking at these kinds of effects. It's a 2/4. It's putting a land into play tapped, but it is putting a land into play. I quite like that. You get Spring Bloom Druid, this is really good. This is just a Harrow. Putting 2 lands into play, drawing 2 cards, gaining a life, or getting 2 life. Wild Wanderer is basically Ondu Giant, but it's a 3/2, so a little more vulnerable to dying to... it's basically more likely to trade with something in combat. But yeah, those ones here. There's another one. So we've searched land here, but if we do forest, we're actually going to get a couple of other options.
Solarblade Elemental.
Yeah, this is the one that was kind of on my mind. 5 mana, 4/4. It's going to put a forest into play. You can find your duels with this. Yeah, Silverglade Elemental is a really cool one, and Wood Elves as well. So if you imagine you take your list and you basically... Like you could, like Wild Growth looks a little awkward here to me because you're not actually doing anything with this. Oh, you're doing Freed from the Real combo. So with Freed from the Real, you're putting a Freed from the Real on an untapper, or on a creature that puts lands into play. Then you can basically pay mana, so you can put the land into play, pay the mana to untap the creature, tap that land, to produce the mana, put another land into play, use that mana to untap it, and you can put a bunch of lands into play, drawing cards for them and gaining life from Tatiova. Huh. I don't know. What do you think, Vind?
So I'm going to have to also say I am not a Tatiova expert, and so thinking about like what Tatiova wants to do, Tatiova wants to do like multiple things. That's what makes it such a threatening deck. I can see some merit for trying to do the Freed combo onto something that will put a land into play. I mean that's what Tatiova wants to do, that sort of thing. Just like have those. I think Crash calls them mana idiots.
Yep.
Have them activate multiple times a turn, go infinite if you can.
Yeah.
I can see some merit for that. I do think this is probably the most helpful comment I can give, is that in this specific meta, though the meta is starting to shift back toward combo a little bit, but we still have a very significant aggro presence. I think if you want to have your own version of Tatiova that is not sort of the more established lists that are out there, I think the experimental space with Tatiova at the current time is playing around with things like a Silverglade Elemental, or things that are going to be what Ryan is saying. I'm basically echoing. You want stuff that's going to come into play, that is going to put up a block, because people will be coming at your face every turn.
Yeah.
And will keep you alive long enough to be able to do the kind of scry, dig, that you can do to be able to get to the combo that you're looking to hit.
Yeah, my concern that with Tatiova is not with combo. I don't and I'm going to fire from the hip here a little bit. My concern in Tatiova is not being able to combo, or not having enough combo. Tatiova has plenty of combo, and the combos are pretty good. My concern with Tatiova is dying. So what I'm seeing here that I guess I'm resistant to is that you've got the Peregrine Drake Ghostly Flicker combo, you have the Tidal Bore combo, and you have the Freed combo. And in a lot of ways, these things don't really work together. They're all kind of different things, and you have ways to find them, but it comes at the cost of having ramp, which is like what Tatiova thrives with. When you're ramping, you're drawing cards and you're gaining life. So like ramp in Tatiova is synonymous with not dying and progressing your game plan. So like there's a part of me that feels like if I was playing Tatiova, I would almost build it like Herd Baloth, where it's like I have so much ramp in that deck because I just want to be able to play my commander and then like put counters on it. right? Like, and with Tatiova, it's like you just want to play your commander and like play lands, ramp, draw cards, gain life, right? So what I don't like about this, I think, is just you're stretching deeper into combo for a deck that already has a great combo plan, and you're actually losing resilience. So and you should know too that I'm speaking as like a person who I've seen a lot of Tatiova. I haven't played a lot of Tatiova. I think that the main concern I still have is that Tatiova players regularly die because they just can't take the heat. And it's not and I don't think comboing faster is my personal preference when it comes to route to win. So I see what you're doing here. You've diversified your combo. It comes at the cost of draw spells and at ramp. It comes at the cost of counter spells too. Some other cards that I would not play is Spell Pierce. In this deck, I don't like Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce is best when you have a ward commander or when you are turbo combo. Um, and you're just gonna find that it's dead a lot of the times, and it feels pretty bad in that case. I think you could also play better counter spells in this deck than Mana Leak. I don't think having double blue in this deck is a problem when you ramp like you do in this deck. I really like
Yeah.
Spore Mound. Spore Mound is
One of the
interesting.
things one of the things we can talk about is, and I don't know if I can't quite see from where I'm at, but typically something like a daze might be better here.
It could be, and Daze is already in the deck. We have
Okay.
here, and I don't even like Daze. I think Daze has alternate functionality as being able to pick up our Mystic Sanctuary, but we already have Gush and Tragic Lesson, both of which are tutorable with Merchant Scroll. Tragic Lesson tutorable with Drift of Phantasms. Um, so I think Daze also loses a lot of value. Again, like my feeling about spells that tax your mana on your opponents is that those ones that only hit for like Force Spike or Spell Pierce for like two, like miscalculation type stuff. I like those most when you've got a commander with ward. Like Spell Pierce is disgusting in Sailor's Bane because somebody's like pay 2 for cast down, pay 4 for the ward, and then you're like pay 2 more. They're not gonna have mana for it. It's just not. Um, so Daze is free, but it's just not gonna be a counter spell in like a lot of cases, like in a lot of cases, and I don't like that. But again, take it. I'm very conservative Magic player. I hate cards that don't work. Fucking like, dude, I can't stand it when cards don't do a thing. When they're just like, when I look at it and I'm like, I have one counter spell in hand, opponent cast the spell, they have 1 mana up, and I have Daze. It's like, oh my god, like this is so bad, and that feel bad for me is not worth it. So if you feel like for you that the upside of the gotcha when they don't have mana is better, then play that card. But know that I don't like it for that reason. The other thing about this Freed from the Rail combo that I just want to mention too is that these wild growth and these auras basically are they're not drawing cards like off of Tatiova. They're ramp effects that don't gain you life. They don't draw you cards. They don't work with your commander. So I think my if I were to condense what I'm trying to say here into a thing, it's I would focus more on trying to stay alive. And the way you do that is by having Moment's Peace, Weather the Storm, and Tangle. And then the other way that you do it is by having other kinds of bodies in play. So I would look at cards like Aether Snipe are great because you can flicker it to prison the table out. I would look at Goad, cards like Jeering Homunculus. I would look at cards like Academy Wall, the Silverglade Elemental, Wood Elves, Ondu Giant type stuff. And I would do that. I would look at Big Blue, but basically instead of playing rocks, we're just putting lands into play. What do you think about that, Finn? Is that
Yeah, and while we're talking about it, I'm actually taking a look in Moxfield at Bobby Fine's Tatiova.
yeah, yeah.
Not, I mean, Crash has the one that's pretty well established. Bobby plays in the Common Connoisseur, so he's seeing a lot of that aggro as well. And so I'm just looking, and it is on quite a few creatures. Some of them are those mana idiots, but some of them are also just really big blockers that are going to keep you alive.
Yep.
There's a lot more. I'm looking now at some of the interaction. Yeah, I can see some of the interaction, which is also flexible for your game plan for combo. So yeah, like I said, Tatiova is not a deck that I play mono white, so let's start there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tatiova,
Well, I think, but what we're,
Simic combo is something that like I'm interested in knowing how to answer, but it's not
yeah,
really something where I look at that and go, this is how I want to build it. It's because it's not typically my play style. So yeah, I think I agree with you. There's certain commanders in our format. Not that I want to discourage anybody as a brewer, and I think it's good to think through these things sometimes, right? To
yeah,
take
yeah,
some time to be like, oh, okay, so why would I put this here? Why would I not put this here? At the same time, like really established ones. Like if I was going to build gut leader right now,
yeah,
I would just the list that Aaron and Gator have made, I would just use that.
yeah, yeah.
Because like they have spent so much time on it. If I was going to play Murmuring Mystic, I'd be going and grabbing your Murmuring Mystic. There are certain lists that I feel like there's been people who have played it and played it and played it and have seen what works and what doesn't work. And like
Yeah.
I think you've talked about this as well before. We're dealing the floor to ceiling with commons is like it's not that high, so
Yep.
like
Yep.
it can be a little tricky to know like this one's better than another one.
Yep.
So I think deferring to people who have been trying it for a while makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Um,
There's nothing wrong with net decking, and I think that especially when you're talking about a list like Crashes, that like, the meta that he plays in is perhaps a bit different than one might. Personally, like sometimes I think that the meta in the PDH home base isn't always representative because it's just so combo focused. I don't know if that's actually true anymore, so catch me if I'm wrong on that. But last time I played a lot there, that's kind of how it was. So, but what I'm saying is like there's a reason he has 17,000 views on this list. Okay, like this is a powerful, well refined list that's really strong. And I would mimic this, and then basically like I would salt to taste. So like with what I'm recommending for what I see as in an open meta, I would just be focusing on having like going deeper on ramp spells and putting and having them attached to bodies. I think that's really good, and then having a couple more ways to either gain life through an effect, but like shutting down combat's really big too. I think you could also look into playing more aura removal that just like makes things not do anything. The vanishing is interesting. Looking here as well, I think I'd play a couple more lands, one at least, maybe one more, maybe two. I like the Aarakocra Sneak as being a combo outlet. And then, yeah, I would look at something like Aether Snipe and some goad creatures where you can flicker to continually goad things to attack other people. I think that's what I would be doing. Now, to catch up on the comments here, let's take a look here. I just had to kind of think about this without responding to the comments for a second. So Alex says Spore Mound is something that's been pretty decent for me. That's cool. I'm interested in seeing how the Spore Mound plays out for you. I think that there's potential in this for sure. I like the idea that you suddenly become like Third Path Iconoclast, where like all your spells are just like making bodies to block with. So that's pretty cool. Derpy Panda says that's an expensive creature. It is, but this is a big mana deck. If it's an untapped land that changes... Oh, yeah, you're talking about Silverglade Elemental. Yep. If it's an untapped land, that changes your math. I think it does. Yep. So it's a 4 mana, 4/4.
I kind of look at it as like it's like playing Nature's Lore, but then also getting a 4/4.
Yeah, and drawing a card and gaining a life, right? And
Right.
really, if you think about it, the more ramp you play, the more likely you're going to be able to play your commander, the more likely you're going to be able to combo off, the less likely you are to die, right? Like all those things are just hugely important. And I should also mention, there is a Tatiova Benthic Druid list out there that hasn't been built yet, I think, or at least I haven't seen, that doesn't actually even play combo, right? Or maybe it plays oops combo. Like maybe you just have your Ghostly Flicker, Peregrine Drake, High Tide combo. You don't play the Tidal Bore. You don't play any of the lands into play thing. And you just play like 22 ramp spells, okay, with creatures attached to them. And you play chonky boys. Like I'm talking like, big creatures that can kill people, like Owlbear, like Annoyed Altasaur, Maelstrom Colossus type stuff. Right, like that. There's another list out there, and I kind of like that idea. But again, like combo isn't generally like my go-to game plan. So, just want to get through these comments here, and then we're going to go back to the Avalanche Caller. Lobert says, or Derpy says, getting greedy can kill you. Yep, 100%. Like Tatiova players like that I see that lose, it's frequently just because like they just like can't cast their Tatiova anymore because it's died a bunch of times and they're taking a bunch of damage because their deck is scary. Lobert says, not that you 100% should be running it. I can see where you're coming from. Yep, there's a few 3-mana creatures. Daze is free. I would do walls. Walls combo is kind of an interesting idea too. Huh. So that's basically like Axebane Guardian, Freed from the Real type stuff. Again, though, Freed from the Real, yeah, I don't know. You could certainly do that. Yeah, for sure. Walls are great blockers. They keep you alive. So Lobert says that'll probably be me someday. And Alex says Freed doesn't use the commander at all to generate the combo. So yeah, so you're saying that Freed is a combo that you find appealing because it's commander agnostic. It's commander agnostic, but it's not creature agnostic. And the problem with a lot of these creatures here is, man, they just die to everything. And so when you put something on them, you are vulnerable to counter spells, you're vulnerable to edicts, you're vulnerable to bounce spells, you're vulnerable to targeted removal, everything. So yeah, so I like what you're doing here. I think that you can probably narrow it down to even a single combo if you wanted, and then just build for resilience. Mainly because I think that that's the problem Tatiova has.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that's worth mentioning is if you're trying to do a lot dedicated free combo in Simic, we have that in format Gretchen Titchwillow, so it'd be worth looking at like what Gretchen is doing.
Yeah, I mean Gretchen and Gretchen is way faster than Tatiova. Yeah. And so if you want to be doing if you want to be doing Freed from the Real, I would highly recommend you look at Gretchen. I like Gretchen because it gets its commander out on 2 and it can block with the 0/4. It literally doesn't care if its commander dies. Like, because all Gretchen wants to do is go infinite. Once it's infinite, it can cast its commander as many times as it needs, and then it can draw its deck, put all the lands into play, and win. So that's really good. You could also look at Weavers, but I think that Gretchen's more resilient, and I like that because I come from the perspective of like, I'm the person killing you if you're playing combo. Okay, so like Gretchen is cool because it has this blocker. You don't get that in Weavers, really. Not as much. So Gretchen doesn't gain life, but its combo is fast. So it's trying to go underneath everybody else. And you're right that it doesn't gain life. But I think that if you're doing Tatiova, you want to be on a different game plan than Freed from the Real. I think I would recommend either playing Crash's list, or I would just go ahead and do something that has bodies that ramp, or provide some other value. Like Aether Snipe is really cool because if you go, if you make infinite mana, you can flicker Aether Snipe to put everything back in everybody's hand. So it's like an onboard capsize. It's also just a 5-mana 4/4. It's like big, it blocks, it kills people, that kind of stuff. So cool. Well, I hope that was satisfactory for you, Alex. I hope that provides some value for you. And thank you, Finn, for joining us on that little detour there. And but let's get this down to 100 cards here. I think we're really, really close. I think it's really interesting. We're like super close, just 2 cards. So Step Through could come in as another removal spell as well. I kind of like that. We'll do removal here. It's also a tutor. So is Step Through already in? No, it's not. Okay. So Step Through can come into the main deck. We have Draconic Lore. I think I'm going to hold off on Scare Tiller. Lantern is cool, but I'm going to hold off. Academy Wall would be nice. But I don't know that we have space for it. And then I had cards like Winter's Rest. Have you seen this one?
Winter's Rest is one that I was hotly considering, and I had it in the list for a minute. It was one that I eventually had to cut just because I was looking for the kinds of removal that if you look at the bounce kind of stuff that I have in there, if I'm seeing a threat coming at me, I mostly want to bounce it. So Winter's Rest is neat. You're always going to be able to play it, right? It's always going to be good. I don't know that it was with the kind of bounce I wanted to play to be able to get rid of a threat. I don't know that it was enough.
It's Commander Lockdown,
it's essentially
right?
a pacifism. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not taking away the abilities of the creature, but playing Winter's Rest
Yeah.
is basically saying we're concerned about a commander. Um,
Right.
and we want to take that commander and turn it off. It's very similar to, and the reason we would play Winter's Rest is actually um, because when we tap something down, we can attack them, right? We're not actually concerned about their creature and its combo. We have counter spells, we have bounce spells, we can interact with combo in lots of ways. So Winter's Rest is a useful tool. It's like Flood.
Yeah, and the other thing I thought about with Winter's Rest was, so I said, okay, I'm not keeping Tamiyo's completion. So why am I keeping this? And I thought, okay, well, maybe I keep this to deal with one of the untappers that you see in something like Gretchen or in something like Tatsuoba. And then I was like, okay, but they're going to have answers to this. You know what I mean? This is not going to be as intimidating. I want that thing gone when they go to do the combo.
Yeah.
If I put this down, they're going to have the answer to it when they go to combo, and I'm going to go, oh, I guess this isn't as good anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Resculpt is a card I'm looking at here that I think could come out for Winter's Rest. Resculpt making a 4/4 that can attack us into our lands is not that cool. Yeah, I think this one's coming out. The reason we had Resculpt before is it could tag an Honored Heirloom or a Relic of Progenitus. We don't have Pongify in the format, Derpy Panda. We have, that's not a common. But we do have these auras, like Winter's Rest, that we can put on things. If we have Deep Freeze in the deck, we can't attack them without giving their commander back. So I think Winter's Rest actually can come in for that. I also did cut the Sword Coast Serpent as well, just because now we have Step Through. So keeping this at 10 is kind of, I think, where we want to be. Now we need to cut 2 cards. Mole Drifter is one option.
I think Mole Drifter can go.
Yep, cut Mole Drifter. We could probably cut one of these. Perhaps it's...
I think a ramp or a draw.
It needs to be a ramp for sure.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So we can cut Star Compass.
Yeah.
Okay. There we are. 100 cards. Derpy says Witness Protection.
I would probably go personally a little deeper into the drawn ramp to be able to put in some of that bounce removal. But that I think that might be the difference in our play styles with this. But
yeah, I think part of it that I'm imagining here around the removal is that if we have mana up, we can always animate lands to dissuade attackers. So that's kind of the vision here, is that the removal is like less for... It's like we have ways to defend ourselves if our commander is around. But I think this will be something to test a little bit, is like, how do we feel about this number? Like, this might be one too many perhaps, or maybe we want to have more of this. This is the same number you have, actually. It's 10 and 10 for you.
That's true.
So we could go deeper into it, I think, is a possibility. So Lobert says, oh man, I love Resculpt though. The 4/4 can attack other people too. Yeah, so we can actually turn our own creature into a 4/4, or our own rock into a 4/4, which is cool. But I don't want that 4/4 attacking us if we're killing other people's stuff. It is a terminate, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and Derpy says, Witness Protection. So the reason we're not doing Witness Protection is because we can't attack them without resetting their commander. It is efficient. And it is tutorable, but Winter's Rest is also tutorable. We also have Vanishing for that purpose. So if we really want to lock down somebody's commander, we want to take it and make it inaccessible to them. Derek says, Dear Ryan and Brownie, what do you think of the card Stunning Strike as far as blue aura removal things go? Stunning Strike is it taps down a non-legendary creature, has flash, 3 mana flash, enters the battlefield, tap a creature, remove it from combat. As long as enchanted creature isn't legendary, it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So it's going to work like half of the time. Sometimes we just won't have a good, like there won't be a target for it where it'll work, which would be kind of sad. Like if it's a Rilsa. But Rilsa's not attacking much anyways, and Rilsa you really want to Vanishing that thing. So if we're tutoring, so doesn't work on Dargo.
I'm trying to think what this. It's a cool card.
And I like the flash here. I see the value in that.
Cool card. in the meta that we're in, it becomes a matter of like what do we want to hit with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't hit Dargo. We most of the time something like Gut, we don't really care if Gut is tapped or untapped. And then
this is why we had Tamio's completion before.
Yeah,
I mean Tamio's completion is like just such a. I might actually be looking at Winter's Rest again. Tamio's completion's also kind of like a naturalize. That's why we had it. Artifact creature. Artifact doesn't really matter so much. It could be a cranial plating that you turn off, which definitely is good. Could be a Whisper Silk Cloak. Could be a Nurok Stealth Suit. It does have flash. You're paying 1 more for it. I mean, instant speed is so important in this deck. Maybe this is actually what... I think I've sold myself, actually.
I think there's a case for it. Like I said, I don't have it right now, but I think it's perfectly reasonable to have in there to, especially like in the instances that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, and I like that better. I know it's a higher rate, but I want our format to try to do that balance between like getting something at a better rate, but then also like get something that's good quality. So like this versus a witness protection, yeah, you can play the witness protection for 1, and that fits the play pattern of like wanting to have a lot of open mana, right?
Yeah,
but at the same time, like somebody bounces that, they have their commander back, or somebody goes to attack them and then they get their commander back.
Yeah.
This one is a little bit more brutal.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder to play around.
And witness protection is actually a really great card when you're not doing any attacking. Witness protection is really good when you attack with flyers. Like witness protection and Murmuring Mystic is fucking sweet because you're like in fact all of the Frogify effects are good in that deck. Basically you like turn things off and then attack in the air and you never reset their commander. Sometimes you just maybe don't care that you reset their commander, or maybe the purpose of that card is to put it on somebody and then never attack them until the end of the game. That could be it too. But it also, you have to remember with witness protection secretly reads nobody attacks that person. And I hate it. I hate that. I hate it for that reason. That's why I rarely play witness protection. I almost always play Deep Freeze. And the reason for Deep Freeze is because it's a 0/4. You can swing in with so much stuff when your opponent has a 0/4 and they can't reset their commander. So...
And why like reprobation is one of the forms of removal in white that's like incredibly strong. Like it's our Darksteel mutation.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, what makes Darksteel mutation better is that it makes the creature indestructible. So then so it's not as good. I only usually like it if I can use it somehow with a flicker at instant speed in white.
Yeah.
So action is the same way.
Yeah. I think this is so we have to always, and Derek and I, if you watched any of our live streams, we talk a lot about the fact that the cards don't always do exactly or entirely what they read. Like they might do a lot more, and sometimes that more isn't actually good. So like with witness protection, if people are really concerned about that thing that the witness protection is on, they will not give that person an opportunity to reset it by attacking them. And then that card reads, you don't get attacked anymore. And I don't like that. I play Stasis Field in TPI because it becomes a 0/2 with Defender and I can still swing in. So I don't want to be resetting their commander with a card like that. Those cards are strong because they're sorcery speed, take away your commander. Then you have to use a card to get it back. So to go back over the things here, Derek says, I like the fact that it removes the thing from combat. Yeah, so that's actually something you don't get with Tamio's completion, is they're still going to get that damage in because it doesn't take away their power and toughness. I mean, the Stunning Strike is definitely, I see exactly where you're coming from with it. I'm just a little bit worried about the non-legendary. Do we have any data on this? Like how many commanders... We could look through them. I mean, it's not going to turn off a Dargo, and I don't like that right off the bat.
Take a look at the metagame stats right now and see like what was our top 10
what are
look like.
And what are the commanders that we're worried about attacking us, right? Like maybe a juiced up Amber. Rilsa could, but
Rilsa, I mean, I think you're on the right path there. in the top 10 we have Abdel. So I mean, but typically the way Abdel is working, because I play mono white Abdel.
Yeah.
You're typically not wanting to attack much with Abdel. You want to attack with the army. You don't want to risk losing Abdel in combat.
Yeah. Abdel's a
Gretchen is
blocker.
not. Yeah, Gretchen's not going to be going to combat. Is number 2. Scholar of the Ages. This doesn't touch in the same way.
And in
Third
fact,
path is
tapping down Gretchen doesn't do shit. Turning
Right.
off all of Gretchen's abilities and tapping it down forever does. So,
Right.
so I guess like you got to look at it this way. Again, this is where communication comes into play, right? So if somebody is going to combat, and you say, "All right, let's talk. Where's that Dargo going?" And they're like, "I'm not going to tell you." Fuck it up. Put it in the dirt. I'm not, it's like people are going to play games with me. Like, no, I'm just going to kill it. Like if people aren't going to like tell me where they're going. So I think that's part of it. So what this means is like with the stunning strike, you can do it during combat to remove it from combat. And so it's a reactive thing. You can do it no matter what. So what's going to mean is if you're doing Tamiyo's completion, it's going to be 1 more mana, and it's going to mean that you are going to have to communicate with people, and you might have to cast it in a case where maybe somebody wasn't coming after you. But if they're not going to tell you, that's their fault. If they're going to play like close to the chest.
Now that I'm looking, the one thing where Amber is probably very good. I'm saying Amber.
Yeah.
The one place Stunning Strike is very good is against Amber Gristlemal. I can see a good case for that. And Amber is kind of steadily kind of climbing up on the metagame stats.
It's a good deck.
That's one place I can see it.
Yeah. Does Tamiyo's completion do the same thing though?
It does.
So for 1 more mana.
Right.
Okay, so let's go through the questions here. Derpy says they spent multiple cards for one thing to get back. That's a lot of card disadvantage. Yeah, that's the appeal of the auras, is that they incur card disadvantage on your opponents. They take away their commander in a way that can be really, really harmful to their game plan. And they're just generally good. Derpy says, I'm just an efficiency junkie. I hear you on that, and I would encourage you to consider in the decks you're playing, like, what does that card read? Efficiency is not everything. I think it's important to think about exactly what the card is accomplishing and what it's like losing you. Because if you just played, for example, Witness Protection because it's the best aura or the cheapest aura to accomplish the turn off all the stats, make it a 1/1, but then you can't attack because you're playing TPI. Like, I don't like that at all. Like, I would double the cost and play Stasis. As well as the fact that Stasis Field also grants it Defender, which is... Dude, I wrote about this in a Twitter post recently, but giving something Defender is huge. Because if they have counters on that thing and they can still swing with it, they can still deal commander damage. Keeping that in mind. But efficiency is not everything. You really do want to make sure that the card is accomplishing a role that is synergistic with your deck. And if it's going to make you make bad plays because it's in there, I don't know. Definitely reconsider that. Yeah. Well, I think what we've got here is a really good starting point for a blending of what you're doing with Avalanche Caller, with kind of like the big blue type stuff, and also increasing the interactivity of the deck, adding a few creatures to it, basically. We have just a little bit less ramp. We have 1 less ramp spell. And I feel like the deck is just generally better for what we did. The combo that we brought in gave us basically more bodies. It gave us more removal and more ways to tutor for what we're doing. Pretty dang cool.
Yep. Yeah, and I think if you I don't know if you want to do this on stream, but as you goldfish it, I think you're going to see it's going to feel a lot better. It's so often I'd be getting these hands where it's like I have like half of a Drake combo and then like maybe 1 piece for a Freed combo, and I'm like, oh, I don't even want to keep this. So this is a little bit better when you can just dedicate to the one, but then keep the rest of your game plan helping either being aggressive in the mid game or trying to dig for that combo.
Yeah, for sure. Derpy says CDH did rot my brain a little, so I'm biased, but it makes sense. Yeah, actually, this is worth mentioning. I think CDH actually is being in CDH is frequently is actually a disadvantage coming into Pauper Commander, because so many of the principles of CDH when it comes to card choices lead people to bad decisions. So like Lotus Petal, mostly a bad card in this format. Cards like Rite of Flame, like all these rituals kind of like going into a turbo route. Like if you are the only combo player at a table, you're gonna have a really tough time. And like turboing is not gonna make people like drop their guard. When you try to turbo, everybody's gonna leave their guard up until you try to do something, and they're gonna look at you and they're gonna say, "Blink, motherfucker." Like like it's and I think CDH is all about that. In CDH, everybody's doing combos, so it's like, and it's so fast and it's so efficient that it's like you should be doing combo. But in CPDH, it's just such a completely different format that the rules don't translate well between them. And so in some ways, like you described as rotting your brain a little bit, but it's gonna make you believe in some cases that certain things are better than others, like efficiency. But like CPDH, I don't know what the average turn count on is CPDH. Maybe if any of you know that, but CPDH, it's like turn 10 turn average. That's probably longer.
CEDH can have turn 0 wins. You can threaten a turn 1.
That's crazy.
It's a much different kind of format, but I find it sometimes very helpful.
Yep.
Because it is sort of a sister format to us. I think of it to be very helpful to think about similar commanders from CEDH to CPDH. Yeah. So, for example, if you want to pull this up, because I also play this deck, Orvar the Allform. So Avalanche Caller is probably the most similar to Orvar the Allform. And you're probably thinking to yourself, huh? What? But it's a mono blue ramp commander. So what does Orvar want to do? Orvar wants to like copy islands and copy enough islands until it hits a combo that it's just going to win the game.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to ramp out as much islands as we can. Sometimes we're doing that with rocks, which sounds way less efficient. And we're trying to ramp out as much as we can, get the combo on board, and then do that thing. It's slower than other combo decks. This is not Timna Thrasios. This is going to be slower, just like Orvar is slower. At the same time, you get to play that because there are shells of Orvar in CEDH that are control oriented. We get to play the control plan. We get to be the mono blue deck, and I am very big on for this format, players learning and experimenting in the space that each mono color is very good in. And really blue, even though we're doing a little bit of color shifting because we're focusing on ramp, blue does have a space for ramp, but we get to play some of that control plan, which is really neat. You're pulling up, Tolerant Sky Summer. That's
a great example, right? Yeah, and then there's also what's the it's ID is going to equal, is it type legendary O token O prowess? I think it is. No, what is it's it's not, is it? Sorry, this is Just Guy. It's yep, here. Kylar Winds Fury being kind of like TPI. And ironically, though, this is one of the reasons I've been selling people on Pauper Commander lately. This is a 4-mana commander. Like TPI comes out in turn 2. Like certain effects that you get in Pauper Commander are just not going to be matched either in quality or in quality, I guess, with things that you find in CEDH. So Alex Scott just left a message here. So he says, I looked at MTG Craft's list and I have a few thoughts. I have found an interesting combo like that needs one more card to work for my deck. However, there are 6 do-nothing cards that, in your opinion, can be cut. Interesting. So you're saying that there's some do-nothing cards. So yeah, I mean, the reality of combo in this format is that personally, I don't like to play it if the cards are do-nothing. And what you're finding there is in that deck, most of the cards are actually do something in Tatiova, which is pretty cool. Whereas in the Freed from the Real version of it, a lot of them are going to be do nothing. A lot of them are going to be do nothing. But you're going to do something when you ramp. You're going to do something when you put lands into play. You're going to do something when you untap a creature to with Tidal Bore to put a land into play. It's a way to draw a card. So, and Bill J says Dargo equals Dargo. Yeah. What kind of?
I was laughing at that.
Yeah. So Brownie, is there a Dargo CEDH deck that's running around?
Yes, I am not as familiar with that one, but yes,
Yeah.
Dargo is one that's I'm still trying to totally understand every cracked thing that Dargo can do, but yes, Bill J, I think is spot on. Dargo equals Dargo.
Yeah, that's great for sure. So what I want to do is run through a couple of playtest runs and just see how it feels. We're on our third mulligan here, so we're gonna have to put one of these to the bottom, and it looks like our best options probably Runaway Together. So we'll bottom that, draw for turn. We're really just looking for lands at this point. Aether Spellbomb, there's a land. Haunted Fengraph. So we'll play these two. We're going to tap, play Felwar Stone. Oh yeah, lands are great here. We're going to hide the Haunted Fengraph until we need to. We're going to play 1, 2, 3, play Network Terminal, tap these two, get the Avalanche Caller out. It's okay if they kill it. We've got mana to recast it. So that's a turn 3 Caller. And then, oh, look at that. Wow.
Yep.
That's a really great draw. I think what we do here is we just cast it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cast the Insight. We're going to draw 3. Graveyard.
So you can, at this point, you basically have combo in hand. Because you can take the Shield Wall to get a drift, transmute the drift for free.
Oh yeah, and then once we make infinite, we deploy this.
Yep. And so then what you're saying with that is I'm gonna put all the cards in my hand. I'm gonna cast a Secret Door.
Yeah, for sure. So what's interesting here is that what I like about this is like I prefer drawing cards over tutoring. So one thing I'm going to be looking at with this deck is like how much tutoring do we actually want to do versus how much do we just draw. Now we just drew into it, so that's pretty cool. When we're drawing more cards, we're more likely to hit our tutors or the cards that are actually comboing off. And what's cool about this is like we can just play without deploying any of this. Like we can sit on the combo in this deck forever, build up this stuff, dissuade attackers, totally chill, right? Like maybe somebody attacks us with a Dargo here. We pop the Aether Spellbomb. Let's just say we have to use our mana. Oh, that's great. So we go... Like we could even soft use the High Tide right now just to like ramp really hard.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have like any relic or anything, any graveyard hate that you're concerned about, you could do that, play the Archaeomancer.
So we could
just,
do...
yeah.
So why don't we do this? We'll sack this here, and we're going to go find an island because we want to keep hitting those. Close and shuffle. Is that just one? Yeah. And then we go maybe Third Path Savant. Or we could actually leave up 3, pay 2 to animate 1 to have a blocker. We got Gatorbait. What's up, dude? How you doing, man? Good to see you in chat. Dargo Jessica is what Derpy pointed out. Dargo Jessica. Yeah, I've heard of that one being good. Especially because Jessica, doesn't that also help you in combat too? Like increases sources of damage. Isn't that Jessica?
Yeah.
Like Jessica, this is with a non-topic specific, but Jessica is the mono red, does triple the damage. Yeah, so that makes Dargo into a 1-hit. Wow. That's so fucking funny. Yeah. Oh, great. And it's also removal. Wow, what a commander. And it basically has, this commander also has Oval Palace stacked onto it, which is like ridiculous. Okay, so we do this. Maybe we create a defensive blocker there. We go 1, 2, think twice. We want to find a land. Didn't find it. Gonna pay 1, 2, 3 to flash it back, draw, found the land. Pay 1, 2, cast the Dreamscape Artist. We don't have any counter magic here. I presume one of these dies. Probably Dreamscape Artist, to be honest.
Yeah.
Runaway Together. So, okay, I think what we're seeing here is that this is great. this run through here is great. We have everything we need. We have removal, we have our combo in hand, we have counter spells. We've been drawing a lot of cards. So let's do one more here. Let's see how that looks. Expensive and no 2-mana rock. I'm gonna restart that. This is much better. Yeah, we'll keep that. We'll draw for turn. Nice. Oh my god, what a draw. Every time I'm playing with Noyark and Noyark gets excited, I know that he did like a turn 2, drew a Sisay's Ring, and I'm just like, fuck. So we go these two into Arcane Signet. Now we're really just looking for another land here. And this is where I think like 35 lands would actually be, yeah.
That's why I'm on 36. I just never want to miss that drop.
Yeah. That might be something we do before we close out here. Yeah, this is like unacceptable. 35 I think is gonna be fine. Maybe we do want 36, huh?
Well, the way I think about it is, like, at the end of the day, it's like adding another 4/4 creature to my deck, you know?
I think cutting Wayfarer's Bauble. What else could we cut? Everything's looking pretty good right now.
So you are on, technically, if you count the Radiant Fountain, you are on 36.
Why is this not tracking here?
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, okay. Huh, it's just not showing it. That's deceptive.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see it now.
What is it? Oh, it's there. Oh, never mind.
It is there. Oh, it is there. Okay,
Weird.
I couldn't see it there.
Yeah, no, neither could I. Step through, is that important?
So step through gets you, it can get you
Archaeomancer.
It can get you
Trinket
the Savant,
Mage.
which is, it can get you Trinket Mage. It can get you Clever Conjurer.
We don't have Clever Conjurer. So it's only
so if you don't have
Archaeomancer
Conjurer,
and Trinket Mage. So this comes out.
Yep.
Okay, and then we'll go up another land. I think I see the wisdom in 36 lands now. We really do want to have like lots of lands. This we can play. This is a great hand. Like we will draw. Oh, look at that. Stern Lesson is awesome. We'll do this here too. We'll do Sky Diamond because we don't have anything else to do with our mana. Untap. Now I think we go 1, 2. Man, I wish we had a land here.
Yeah. So this is where, so if you're wanting to make sure you hit that thing and drop. Yeah. Yep.
Now, could I have done that? No, this is the most efficient way to do it. I think I want both.
Sure.
And then this is going to sit and play. I like this card already. Yeah. Untap.
This is why I like any lands matter commander because it's just like it's never really a dead draw.
No, it's not. We can go commander. Play it out. I don't think anybody kills it there. Play the land. I think Stern Lesson is kind of interesting, but I don't really want to discard any of this stuff right now. Is the only thing. We got Derpy Panda saying I wanted to send over my Mahdi control deck, but I came too late. Hey, no worries, Derpy. If you want to send it in on Friday, you're welcome to do that. Or I'll call you Panda, not Derpy. That's a little better. So Panda, if you want to send it to me on Friday, you're welcome to do that. Also know too that that one way that you can maximize your gains when you contribute to what we're doing here. So when you pay us to do something, and also maximize the amount that we receive is actually to subscribe through the Patreon. And even if the way you can do it is that if you want to send something in, alternatively you can subscribe through the Patreon and just do it for a month. And then that means that we actually get 92% of that. But when we go through YouTube, we actually lose a lot. A lot of it goes to YouTube. You'd be shocked. YouTube takes a 45% cut.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically what that would do for you is not only would we get to look at your list, but you would also get access to the exclusive part of the Discord server for that month. So and then you can get a taste for it, see if you still like it, and do that. So yeah, just wanted to offer that option for you, Derpy, as a way to do it, where you could just do 1 month of the Patreon, basically get the same thing, get more value out of it, and also make sure that we get more of your money that you're contributing. So anyways, not to get too distracted on that, but I wanted to make sure I responded to you there. So this turn, do we just do unexplained visions? Right? Like 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be like scry 3, draw 3. Holy shit. That's so insane. I kind of wanted to land there though. This is like 36 lands and we're not hitting them. It's like, damn it. We could grab like this right here would guarantee probably that we get it next time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So not even.
This is one of the reasons I cut Secret to the Golden City. It can, it's good. Actually, no, maybe I do have it. No, I'm thinking of the other one, Rush of Knowledge. This is one of the reasons I cut Rush of Knowledge.
Rush of Knowledge makes sense. Yeah. Rush of Knowledge is going to be 5 mana, draw 3 most of the time.
Yeah.
It can be more. It can be more. Yeah. So I think here we could also. Oh, you know what we do? We bottom these.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of draw. We don't need these. We bottom it all. Wow, that's powerful. 1, 2.
And then that's the other nice thing is when you're drawing into these draw spells you have on board right now, that Omen of the Sea, so you can decide to scry and then draw if you have the mana. So you can be doing that selection. The selection piece is important for me to be able to grab the combo pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. So we didn't hit any lands there, and we hit Arcane Signet. It's kind of weird. Land? Damn. This is atypical. 36 lands is a lot. But we're still doing fine. Turn 6, we really haven't done very much, but just develop. And we still have quite a bit of mana. We're ahead, 8 mana on turn 6. And we're about to get... We could do this. This actually does help us hit our land drop. So we go 1, 2, 3, play this. 1, 2, 1, 2.
And on turn 6, this would be about the turn where I would start talking to the table and saying things like, okay, I don't have combo in hand. I know I'm drawing a lot of cards and playing a lot of rocks, but I don't have combo. So guys, we're pivoting here, and I'm going to be going aggressive. So if that's something that's scary to you, answer it. If you're happy about that, then don't be swinging it my way because I'm not coming at you.
Yeah, exactly. So here I have activate for 2. Pay 2 to activate a land, and then we also have Alexi's Cloak. So yeah. So I think generally speaking, if we're holding up this kind of stuff, people are going to be not as excited about coming after us, but it's possible. And then maybe at end of turn, we go 1, 2, 3, cast Stern Lesson. I think we can pitch. Well, we don't need both of these, right? So Archaeomancer.
Yep.
And we're going to draw 2. Okay, great. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So this can find Drift of Phantasms for Freed.
They can also find Secret Door.
Door, which I kind of like. Is there anything here we just like? I love how we can just like play this out to just get a fucking huge draw spell. It's one of the things I love about the Big Blue game plan.
Yeah.
But like we're not in any rush here. This is kind of that point in the game where I say like, I've got the combo. I could work towards the combo, but I could also just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3 4/4s with like mana up to cast my Alexi's Cloak. Man, I love this deck so much. That's so cool. You can apply so much pressure. I've swung for huge amounts of damage, vast tracts of land. Just get them. While also just having combo stuff to do. So I like this. I think we're at a reasonable stopping point here. Basically, this deck just needs to be tested now. And yeah, so I think with that, I think we can wrap things up. So Brownie, I really, really appreciate you coming on and joining us. It's really fun to have you here for your first debut on the Common Connoisseurs with a non-white deck, which I feel like is almost trolling our viewers because it's really not your it's not like your it's not that it's not your wheelhouse. It's that your wheelhouse is white.
Yeah,
It's
I
your
think it's fair to
thing.
say something like this. This is I've often said of like a mono blue control combo deck. This is the only one that like really appeals to me, and it's because it does freed combo unlike any other deck in the format.
It really does. Yeah,
So
yeah. Like every other freed combo deck out there has to like protect both the target and the freed, and this deck is like you put this on a land, like, and it's got hexproof. So, like, there's really like not a lot of answers to that. There might be like if not, there's actually no real answer to that. Like
there's this. I mentioned this earlier on our time together. So
counterspell.
we'll talk about some vulnerabilities. So if you're in a pod with blue can counter high tide. They can counter freed. Those kinds of things can happen. And so you do have to be careful with that.
Yep.
The other vulnerabilities it has is, though this one, it's possible, but it's unlikely, is somebody could pestilence for 4 when you animate the land.
Dude, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I stared down a pestilence player one time and I actually cast a counter spell that wasn't able to fully counter the pestilence so that they didn't have enough mana to pay for it, and then I killed them.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't use your pestilence if you're dead. That's the
That's
truth,
right.
chat. I just looked at them and I was like, I can't remember what I cast. They had a lot of mana. So I think I cast like Soul Read, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, so they could only pay for 3, I think it
Right.
was, or maybe it was 2, and then I just hit them for 24.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great. I mean, honestly, that's a great use of Soul Read. On the stack, like it's great. Now you can't pass as much as you want.
Yeah, pestilence or
The
crypt
other,
rats is a possibility. Yeah.
the other vulnerability it can have, and I discovered this last week as I was playing the game. So as I said, I comboed on turn 6. I had missed a land drop, so I had 5 lands, and I did not play Avalanche Caller. So when I went to High Tide, if I'm getting the count right, basically I had to, and you can do this, I had to tap out with all of my lands to be able to play Freed. So if you're tapping out, the way the count is going to work usually, you're going to have 1 blue floating. If someone has instant speed, disenchant, or bounce at that moment,
That's a good
then
point.
they can disrupt the combo.
Yep.
Because you don't have any other mana to pay into Freed,
Right.
and that's going to go on the stack, and then Freed's gone.
That's a really
So
good
that
point.
that is the only other vulnerability it has. Now, if you don't know that will be a hard lesson. But it's something that I saw because somebody had a Wickerbout Elder in play, but they didn't
Wow.
have a way to. They did not have mana to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I guess I got it.
Well, even if they did have the
But
mana to pay for it, what you could do is just respond by untapping it more, right? Like,
well, no, that was the problem. Is I only had that 1 blue floating, so I would have had to it would untap the land when the land becomes untapped. Right, I can't pay into Freed anymore.
got it. Yep. Yep. That makes sense. So you need to have more than one open so that you can respond to it. And that's just about deploying your combo safely, right? Like being sure
Yep.
that you really, like if this is your one thing that you can do, you want to make sure that you can do it safely. So, yeah. Well, yeah, this has been great. And it's been awesome having everybody in chat here. Super engaged and you know we're going to be doing more of this in the future. I'm going to be updating Murmuring Mystic soon. I don't think Murmuring Mystic is dead. I think that Third Path Iconoclast is a more dynamic deck in the sense that you can play aggro with it. If you're playing mid range, you have like both like the pack attack kill or the volatile claws kill, but you also just have like chipping in for damage and pinging, curiosity. But what Murmuring Mystic has is it has flying attackers, and it has a 1/5 in the command zone, which is way bigger than TPI. So I think there's still reasons to play that. I've got some tunes and adjustments I'm going to make to that soon. That's going to be the next Let's Tune, and there's going to be a whole bunch of those because One and Mom, those 2 sets brought a lot of really interesting stuff. I've got to update Mayhem Devil, which is going to be really hard. Mayhem Devil is always agonizing to make adjustments to. So, but yeah, definitely keep your eye out for more of that in the future. Again, for those of you that may not be familiar, we're on 2 days a week now, Mondays and Fridays, and keeping regular there. And with that, yeah, just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all the patrons who make this possible. If you too want to join the Patreon, you can go to /Common Connoisseurs, it's patreon.com/Common Connoisseurs to join us in that exclusive section. Yeah, so with that, Brownie, thanks for joining us, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Connoisseurs of Fine Common Cardboard, wherever you are, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and we're going to catch you on the battlefield. Peace out.